Welcome, critters! I'm Claire Jones, your devoted host of the Sacred Reading CR podcast, where we discuss and examine Critical Role episodes, plotlines, and characters and players through the lens of sacred reading practices. This particular episode is about Campaign 1, Episode 40, Part 1, and joining me today is Atlas.
Hello.
So, the icebreaker that I found literally a few seconds ago is, what is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is I have loved the night too dearly to be, or I have loved the stars too dearly to be fearful of the night.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's from.
It's from a poem titled The Astronomer. And I don't remember the author at the moment, and I'm kicking myself because it's one of my favorites.
Mm,
But
that's okay.
uh, it's a fun little poem, and I don't know, that line's always been a favorite of mine.
Yeah, why does it resonate with you?
Something about finding the beauty in places and focusing on that. And
Mm.
even little things can make something scary into something incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. I have definitely been communing with the night sky whenever I can lately.
Yeah. It's one of the things I missed since moving is I had easy access to dark sky areas
Hmm.
where I was before. And so the stargazing was incredible. It's not bad here, but it's not as good.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always lived in urban centers, so whenever I get out into the country, it's a treat.
Yeah. It's a little bit easier when you live where there's no people, but that comes with other downsides.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have like two, three major airports surrounding me as well.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
that would do it.
just the constant light that emits from those, like, even though it's across the hill from me, like it just lights up the sky continuously. So, but I do say
Yeah,
hi to the moon when she appears.
that's fair.
Mhm.
Yeah. Appreciate what you can get.
Exactly. I think I'm gonna have to go all the way back to the quote that I used for my senior year high school yearbook.
Nice.
Because I think it's still like I still love it. It still qualifies. It's by the philosopher Bertrand Russell, and he said, I'm going to try to say it exactly, but I don't know if I can get it. He said, "Do not fear to be eccentric in opinion, for each opinion now accepted was once considered weird or eccentric or something like that."
Hmm. I like it.
Yeah. I was definitely, I've been a nonconformist for a while, and I definitely like having the more eccentric point of view
Yeah.
of being like, all right, but can we think outside the box? I see you're in the box, and the box is a good safe place, and sometimes we need to be there, but also can we just like expand a little bit and think
Yeah.
outside? Because you might just discover something fun.
That's always a good philosophy to have. You know, it's life is better when you're curious.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I get bored very easily with the status quo.
Hmm. That's fair.
I'm like, does it have to be this way though? Like, I know we've been doing this for a while, but like, is there a better way to do it? Like, better can be so many different things. It can be more efficient, it can be more productive, it can
Hmm.
be faster, it can be funner.
Right? You got options.
So I think I'm gonna have to go back to that one. So please join us as we embark on this exciting adventure in story analysis and self-reflection in order to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. As always, we love hearing your own insights and stories as well. So please comment, like, subscribe below, and ready? All right, let's dive in. As we open this episode, Vox Machina are in the process of panicking basically because they spent the last episode investigating the abandoned manor of General Krieg, a member of the Tal'Dorei Council, that they had killed pre-stream when they discovered that he was a blue dragon in disguise. But when they returned, they were summoned to the Cloudtop district in Amman, where the Sovereign Uriel was planning to address a gathering of citizens and provide an important announcement, which turned out to be his intention to step down as sovereign. And he proclaimed his desire to install a council-led government instead. But just as he was finishing his speech, four ancient dragons attacked the city in unison. Chaos ensued. The dragons killed almost everyone who was gathering to listen to Uriel, and Vox Machina barely escaped using Keyleth's transport via plants, and so they returned to Greyskull Keep in the midst of the Chroma Conclave's attack. After sending the keep's staff to the relative safety of the basement, some of the party goes to the keep's outer walls, only to find dozens of Amon's refugees clamoring for entry. Vax passionately orders the guards to open the gates and escort the refugees inside, but the ancient white dragon approaches the keep and attacks, even though he was ordered to pursue other tasks by the red dragon in the previous episode. So Vox Machina attempts to fight off the white dragon in the courtyard of the keep. They do manage to do some damage, but not nearly enough. And Trinket is frozen to unconsciousness, and many refugees are frozen to death once the dragon reaches them. It drops down on top of the keep and then drops down into the courtyard and basically freezes everyone that it sees or can see because of Keyleth's fog spell. The group fights some more, including the guards of the keep, but the morale drops even further as the immensity of the situation becomes obvious. Nothing they are trying is working. So Pike heals Trinket, and the party prepares to flee. Grog grabs Pike and carries her toward the keep, but before the situation becomes even more dire, the red dragon actually orders the white dragon again, revealing his name to be Voragol to continue eastward. Voragol flies off, leaving Vox Machina and the surviving refugees in a very traumatized state, most of them dead as well. As the red dragon flies over the city, his voice rings out, telling the people that if they fight or flee, they will forfeit his mercy. He says that it was the guardians of the city who brought this upon them, and a new age is here. The people are to abandon their gods and convictions for their new purpose, which is to serve the dragon. Keyleth asks if this happened because of them, but the rest of the group is distracted by the frozen refugees in the courtyard. Approximately 25 of the refugees have survived, and the keep staff does work together to set up the temple so that they can all stay for the night, the temple and the keep, because there are damaged portions. Grog asks to speak to Percy privately in Percy's workshop, asking him to lock the door behind him. He tells Percy that the evil skull from General Krieg's house grants a wish that only those that dark things have touched can use, which Grog figures is Percy and himself. He feels that they need to use the skull's wish to combat the dragons, but Percy does not agree. Well, he doesn't disagree, but he doesn't really agree either. He basically tells Grog to go get the others in case something goes wrong. Grog is reluctant, but he finally agrees to get either Vax or Keyleth. As soon as he leaves, Percy takes the skull from its hiding place and speaks to it, and receives a very long whisper from Matt. While that is happening, the rest of the group is surveying the damages on the keep, realizing that the roof has sustained quite a bit of damage from the dragon's impact with it. But they continue to move beds and do the best that they can to set up for the refugees. And Keyleth collapses in a corner of the temple, overcome by worry, and Pike casts Planner Ally to summon an angel to help rebuild the structure. Grog asks to speak to Vax alone, telling him that Percy wants him downstairs. It's about the skull, he says. And Vax tells Vex to come downstairs as well if he's not back in a few minutes, because they were having a little conversation about not going far from each other once again and wondering if this was what their mother had seen in her last moments. And so she agrees, but she hunters Mark's Grog, and Vax follows the barbarian downstairs, and that's where they break for the episode. So, what do we think of this first half?
I think a lot of it is so iconic that I completely forgot about the skull.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Um, just some commentary about how the big things tend to overshadow the little things in hindsight. Um, so when we got to the skull, I was genuinely surprised that I had forgotten that this was a conversation they ever had.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And I think
but
Grog's actions are very interesting in that
I agree.
as well.
I think it's one of the few times we see more of Travis
Yeah.
than we see of Grog.
Yeah. Exactly.
And generally speaking, he's really good about staying in character.
Yeah.
He's one of the like strongest people at doing that. But this is all Travis.
Yeah.
Like it's his propensity to want to push the big red button
Yeah.
and his stress from the fight that they were just dealing with.
Yeah.
And between the two, we're not seeing much of Grog at all, I would
Yeah.
argue.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes to show how much the immensity, the overwhelming awe
Hmm.
of this scenario are impacting both the players and the characters in this scenario. Um,
Yeah.
we see Keyleth collapsing entirely. Like she even says at one point that she is like frozen in the foyer of the keep and like can't move and is only jarred out of that by the crash of the airship that happens just before the dragon's arrival to the keep.
Hmm.
Vex, I think, is also torn in a lot of different directions. Like Percy is ordering her one way and she wants to follow, but then she also wants to take care of the refugees. Like she's immediately drawn towards helping people more so than fighting back, which I think is an interesting
Yeah.
choice as well.
Yeah. And even with Vex struggling, I think Laura is struggling more.
Yeah,
Um, like watching her at the table, this was something she really struggled to decide anything.
yeah,
Um, and it's a lot of them were really struggling to figure out what to do, how to deal with this situation. And I think it's a really interesting commentary just because they felt so competent
hmm,
until
yeah,
there was this huge reveal
yeah,
and they've lost every sense of confidence in themselves.
yeah. Like, can you imagine that they were arguing over the dragon's hoard like what, an hour before this?
Right? If that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, there's a trope in like talking about D&D where your players get too confident, throw a dragon at him.
Mm.
Matt actually did.
How about four?
Yeah. And you can see it really rocks them as players and as characters.
Yeah,
And I it I think it needed to happen,
yeah,
honestly.
it did. It did. Yeah, they're all being torn in a lot of different directions. Like I can see that happening with Percy too. I mean, Scanlan's not there because Sam Riegel wasn't here for the episode, and so we don't have
Right.
the Scanlan's perspective, but we do have a little bit of Pike in here as well. And she's definitely more oriented towards like the healing and rebuilding reactions that she is participating in. Like her first reaction, even just like coming through the transport via plant spell, is like, is anyone hurt? Do I need to heal anyone?
Hmm.
Let me dispense some healing vibes to you all. Mass cure wounds, you know. Um, but yes, going back to Grog and Travis, I think it's very interesting as well because I think he also reveals more than I think he intends to in just small aside of we are touched by darkness
Yeah.
because he hasn't yet admitted that to anyone in the group. And I don't think even Travis realized that he was admitting that in the moment as he said that.
Well, and like thinking about it, Grog wouldn't think that.
Yeah.
Grog doesn't think that. So that is all Travis.
Yeah.
And it's something that, honestly, if we're staying in character, never should have come out of Grog's mouth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it is a perfect example of how people panic in the face of crisis.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely understand Keyleth's reaction. I definitely understand Vex's reaction. Vex is being torn in a lot of directions. Percy's being torn in a lot of directions. Grog is not being Grog in this
Yeah.
scenario at all.
Pike and Percy handle it the best, in my
I
opinion.
think so, yes.
Yeah, which actually plays into their characters really well.
Yeah.
Um, because Percy has been dealing with the trauma for however many years and kind of knows how to lock it down, but Pike is also a war cleric. Like,
Hmm.
this is what she does, and
Hmm.
she's good at it. And I
Yeah.
love that for her. I love that we get to see Ashley play that and not Matt.
Yeah.
Like, I think Pike benefits so much when Ashley is there because Ashley understands the character in a way where this is something that's natural to her.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that. I love that we got to see that in this, fight because it is the start of something huge for this show.
And honestly, I don't think Matt plays Pike that well.
I don't either. I think he tries, but I think he plays her too sweet and too naive almost.
Yeah.
Whereas Pike is like battle ready and ready to fight, but still cares about people. And we get to actually see how Ashley would want her to play in a huge interaction
Yeah.
in this fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you been watching any of the Weird Kids podcasts?
Not yet. It is on my to-do list, but it just started. So,
Well, I was watching the introduction thing that they did this past week, and it's a podcast between Taliesin and Ashley, and they're talking about their weird upbringings and so on and so forth. And they showed some clips of like the upcoming episodes of the podcast.
mhm.
And this is something that I didn't know, which applies to what we're talking about here, is that both Ashley and Taliesin have some very traumatic upbringings.
Mm.
And they both had very early introductions to the concept of death in their lives.
Hmm.
And I think that that shows up in the way that Taliesin plays Percy and Pike play, or Ashley plays Pike,
Yeah.
especially in this moment.
Like I haven't seen that yet, but just from your brief summary, I think that makes so much sense. And I think it explains a lot about all of their characters that they play across this, um, franchise or whatever we want to call it. um, it's you can see it in the way that they react just to stressful situations.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's interesting.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this is a theme that we see in a lot of people who have dealt with chronic forms of trauma. Is
Mm,
this lack of emotional, like knee-jerk emotional reactions to crisis, and more so like whether they're dissociating or not is a question. But
right.
they do tend to have a more logical, detached approach to, or at least in some forms of
Hmm.
chronic trauma. I know some people have very strong emotional triggers that do erupt in some scenarios, but at least from my personal experience, that's what I've seen.
Yeah. It's interesting to think because we have the space to do it in this episode, think about how much the players influence the characters and
Oh, yes.
sometimes vice versa. And like I think here we're seeing exactly how much Laura influences Vex and how much Liam influences Vax and how much, the whole cast is really showing more of themselves than they are of their characters in this fight.
Yes.
Um, and it's a break from a lot of the previous fights we've seen because the previous fights they've been able to stay mostly character driven
Hmm.
and be able to stay more in the headspace of the story. But this one is genuinely stressful for them. And so we see more of their own personalities bleeding through. Um, and it's not something we've seen a lot of. And I think it says a lot about the impact that this fight has. It's the first one they've had to really run from that didn't end up ending when they ran.
Yeah.
Like it followed them, and now they're even more lost about what to do. And, there's no winning this one. They all know it. And the stress that comes through is not something they've had to show us on stream before. All of the fights that they've fought so far have been winnable, and this one so clearly is not. And not only is it not winnable, it's not ending. And they're so lost as
Mm-hmm.
people, as players, as characters. Everybody is confused and stressed and not sure where to go next.
I
And
mean,
that's new.
the only parallel that I can think of is that first initial encounter with the Briarwoods at the palace.
Yeah.
Like the Briarwoods absolutely like smother them. Vax nearly dies, so on and so forth, and the Briarwoods get away because of it.
Yeah. And that's one where they, if it had been a little bit different, they probably should have ran. But the Briarwoods were just as interested in leaving. It wasn't going to follow them if they decided to leave.
Yeah.
And there wasn't quite the stakes of huge numbers of innocent people
Yes.
also being in the same area.
Yeah.
So the civilian casualty aspect is also coming in for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like all of the bad aspects of the Briarwood arc piled on top of each other
Hmm.
because they didn't have to deal with like the weight of the civilian population until they got to Whitestone. And it wasn't like they were immediately being threatened once they got there either.
Yeah. Well, and even then, a lot of the civilian population was fighting with them. And
Hmm.
here, they're just running.
Hmm.
They're not fighting with Vox Machina at all. And so this isn't they're civilians, but they can hold their own in certain circumstances. They are fully our responsibility.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a whole nother level,
Yeah. I really want to know what the guards of the keep were thinking while they were facing the like,
right?
ancient white dragon.
I would love to know what was going through Jarrett's head when he
Yeah.
was being told to stay out of it.
Yeah. He's just like in the basement, like,
Yeah. Like he's probably one of their more capable fighters and he's stuck guarding a workshop.
yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know it hasn't yet been animated either, which I'm also excited to see. I
Hmm.
really want to see Keyleth frozen in the foyer in the animation of that scene as well.
Yeah. I don't It's been a while since I watched the animated version. I feel like this might be one that they kind of reconfigure.
Yeah, they did.
Um, so I don't know that we'll get to see it with the same level of depth, and part of that might be because a lot of this is so out of character.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think they skipped the whole, like as much as they can of like the keep, like because I remember them going like all the way to, I think the Raishan fight and
mhm.
they've gone through the entire Chroma Conclave arc, I think, in the animated
I
series.
think so. Yeah.
It's just this is one of those scenes that was skipped over during the,
Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons that could be, but I think because this fight is so far from in character, it's one of the ones that was unlikely to make it in there in the first place.
And I think it's also one of those scenes in media that is not only uncomfortable for the characters, but uncomfortable for the viewer too,
Hmm.
because the
Yeah,
characters aren't leading us through the scene.
right.
Like viewers and readers are a lot more comfortable when we can be given a path in the narrative or guided along a path in the narrative. It's a lot more uncomfortable for readers and viewers if like we feel as lost as the characters do in the
Hmm.
situation. You know, even if the characters are making bad decisions, like even if we disagree with the decisions that the characters are making, they're at least going somewhere with the narrative, right?
Right. Some choice is better than no choice.
Exactly. And I think that these kinds of scenes make for bad TV.
That's fair. I would agree.
And so I think that's probably part of the reason why they also removed it from the animated series because we also in TV series we aren't giving that time to rest in the discomfort of this part of the narrative of like everyone
Right.
freaking out. Like usually it's maybe unless I mean in certain it depends on whether it's like TV versus books and stuff like that. But in TV in particularly, we don't really have a lot of time to sit in the uncomfortable feelings.
No, especially not with half-hour episodes.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do about it. So, I don't know, lots of reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just fascinating. I always like, as an author, I always like to look at how people craft narratives and craft stories and evoke emotions in the
Mhm.
readers and the viewers as well. And so I would actually argue that it's worthwhile to make the readers and the viewers sit through the discomfort with the characters in scenes like this. But that's why I write books and not TV shows.
Fair. Yeah, it's all about medium.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's why I write like 100,000 word fantasy books, not like short stories.
Right. Whereas I write short stories and I would not do good at writing novels.
Mhm.
So, it's all about how you want to structure things and what kind of story you're wanting to tell, you
Hmm.
know. So, I don't know.
Well,
I
that's a
think I
segue into personal experiences. What's coming up for us?
I think given the state of the world, there's lots of options.
Ooh,
Um,
I have to crack my neck for that one.
yeah, but I think the thing that struck me is watching like the twins, especially,
Mm,
where this is bringing up a lot of past stuff for them.
mm,
History's kind of repeating itself for them, and all they can do is keep moving forward. And it's stressful and it's frustrating, but they keep moving. And, we're in a bit of a situation where things are tough right now.
talk about
Um,
overwhelming immensities, man.
yeah, yeah. The president is trying to cancel my entire profession. So I'm feeling a lot of ways. Um, and so it's a lot of I see the way that the twins are responding in myself, in my coworkers, in my day to day, where it's just everything is stressful and scary. But there's a million people who are just one foot in front of the other and keep moving and
Yeah,
just keep walking and something will happen eventually, but you gotta keep moving.
yeah,
Uh, so, it was heavy topics, briefly summarized, but just a lot of how we're all dealing with the trauma of the world right now.
yeah. And I'm
Like,
sure you're seeing a
mhm.
variety of responses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's people who are panicking, there's people who are fighting, and there's people who are putting one foot in front of the other, and they're all very valid.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I also have a profession right now that is intricately linked to the Department of Education.
Hmm.
And I am fortunate in the to live in a state where we're pretty self-sufficient within the state in terms of funding
Right.
support. We don't take a lot from the federal government when it comes to funding and support. I don't think we take anything, honestly, or at least very, very little. And
Hmm.
so I honestly just don't know how much we're going to be impacted by all of that stuff, but like no one fucking knows.
Right. Whereas I'm a librarian. Like, I, he's trying to dismantle the entire organization that funds libraries federally. I work for a federal library. Like, this is, I'm very stressed.
Yep,
But,
I get it.
it's just the level of stress that people are dealing with right now in real life mirrors a lot of what we're seeing in this kind of episode where nobody knows what to do. Everybody is stressed, everybody's panicking, but you just keep going because
Yeah.
that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Man, I caught myself thinking literally last night about how I could possibly increase my chances of surviving if I get into a plane crash.
Mm, yeah,
I was like, thank you, traumatized brain, for trying to strategy your way out of it. I don't know if it will help or not.
right. Yeah,
I was like, are we serious, brain? Are we serious right now?
it's interesting what responses we all have to all of this.
It's so funny. Like one of my coping mechanisms is organization and strategy. It's like it's an attempt to put control over my environment if my environment becomes
Hmm.
overwhelming, right? And so like give me spreadsheets, give me like color coding, give me organization, I can, organize myself out of trauma if I try hard enough.
Yeah.
Is it healthy though? Don't know.
Yeah, at this point, coping mechanisms are worth trying no matter what they are.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's anyway,
Yeah.
the real life experiences boils down to trauma.
Mm. I mean, girl, same, honestly. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I've seen so many people react in so many different ways when it comes to like immediate crises. Like
Hmm.
like I said, there are the people who just like detach from the emotionality of it and go towards strategy. I'm tend to be more one of those people where I'm like, all right, do not connect to the emotions that are coming up in this moment and instead just act blindly, which also isn't the best response. There was this one time in college, we were chronic weed smokers in my dorm, and one of the times that we set off the fire alarm through all of our weed smoking, I, in my stoned, panicking state, decided that that would be the best time to start washing dishes in the sink.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I was like, this will be productive. This is a productive use of my reaction. And so I was panic washing dishes while the
You
fire
know,
was going off.
yeah, I
And I was
understand.
also like one of the people who was like, all right, I need to burn food in order to like explain why the fire alarm is going off as well. So I threw a bunch of bread like straight onto the stove.
Wow, that's a choice.
And so I started burning bread, washing dishes. So like, I'm one of those like action oriented responders, but it's also like it's not necessarily the best response to those situations. But I also know people
Mm,
who just like freeze like Keyleth as well. And I also know people who just like melt down emotionally because of that as well. So it's a broad range of reactions. And like you said, all of them are valid.
yeah, we see all of them in the characters. We see all of them in real life. Yeah, I'm more of a freeze person. I relate to Keyleth very much, but don't love it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my flight instinct has been kicking hard lately because of
Hmm.
all of
Hmm.
the state political bullshit going on. I keep wanting to like just straight up flee.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand.
and it's hard when I I'm not in a position to flee either. Or fleeing is not the most reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, what are we gonna do about it?
I think we adopt any of the things that they do in this show.
Mm,
Stay close to the people who matter to you.
mm,
Keep working even when you don't feel like you want to, and help those around you. Like everything that they do in this episode is a valid way to respond and to keep moving in a way that's productive. Um, you know, they all have different ways of going about it. We can take whatever lesson fits our response pattern best. There's something here for everybody to learn. But I think for me, um, I think I'm gonna, take Vax's advice and just stay close to the people who matter and focus more on the things that are important to me and find inspiration there for now.
yeah, yeah. I'm definitely trying to harness my organizing powers for good
Hmm.
in this scenario. I've recently gone viral online again. I don't know how or why I keep doing it. Because to your point, I simply posted a video a couple of weeks ago where I was like, look, if anyone needs food, shelter, love, support right now, I am willing to provide what I can from where I am with what I have. And that was
Hmm.
like the end of the message. It was like, that is all. Please and thank you. I just want to care for people if I can with what's going on.
Yeah.
And the internet took it and ran with it, as the internet does. Um, And my comments quickly became flooded with both people who were asking for support and people offering support from across the United States. Like people in a large amount of states were commenting. And so at first I tried manually matching the people. I was like, Ohio asker, Ohio offerer. You guys kiss. Like you
Hmm.
guys talk. Massachusetts, Massachusetts. You guys talk, but that's not scalable and I do not have time to manually match make everyone. And so I ended up making a Discord server where
Hmm.
I have like the each of the states are separated out. And so like there's a state offer and an ask section for each state. And so that people can come in and be like, I have X, Y, and Z, or I need X, Y, and Z, and they can organize amongst themselves. And so
Yeah.
I'm feeling honestly a lot less useless because I've been able to facilitate it. Um, and so I'm trying to use my organizational powers for good. Honestly, I don't have a lot of time and energy to devote to it as much as I want to. But the good news is that there are tons of mutual aid organizations across the United States.
Hmm.
And so I'm focusing my efforts on sharing and cataloging mutual aid efforts in each of the states so that then people within those states can become more involved with those orgs, more so than me trying to like be the manager of all of the things going on.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I
that's
think
what I'm
there's
looking to do.
I think there's something beautiful about that. And I think there's something to be said about finding your niche because, like, that's not something I could ever do. I
Yeah.
love that you can and I love that you have. That's incredible. But that's not where my my personal skill set lies. So
Yeah.
there's something to be said for finding your own response to all of this,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
figure out what works for you. I mean, mine is more focused around citizen scientists and
Mm.
making sure that they have a space to go because that's where my specialty is.
Mhm.
My connections, my world revolves around, environmental impacts and scientific discovery. And so my forms of activism have been very geared towards a niche subset of people who are having a really hard time right now. You know, I have a lot of connections with the National Park Service and with environmental agencies, all of which are suffering right now. And
Mhm.
so my activism has been creating a place for them to go and making sure that there is support for some of their more grassroots efforts. And so it's, find your niche,
Yeah,
find your little piece of where you can make a difference.
absolutely.
You don't have to do everything. Nobody is doing everything.
Right?
So find your spot.
Yeah. And do something like, I mean, they say this about careers too, but do the thing that comes easiest to you because
Hmm.
that's going to take the least amount of energy for you as well, so that then you have a bigger reservoir for contributing.
Yeah.
Don't choose the task that depletes you. Don't choose the task that is a lot of effort for you. Let other people step into their zone of genius in those realms. And so,
Hmm.
because then we can have longer lasting, more sustainable impact because we're doing the things that are easy to us.
Right. And to loop back to Critical Role here,
Yeah.
the Conclave arc is a marathon. This is
Yes.
not short. And
Absolutely.
neither is anything that is happening IRL. Like, take care of
Yeah.
yourself, find ways to make it last. Like, this is, we're not fighting dragons. We are in our own ways, but it's a marathon. This whole thing is a marathon. Think of it, if it helps, as if you are fighting the Chroma Conclave.
Yeah.
Like, take your time, find your niche, and don't try to do it all in one day because you will die.
Yeah.
You know,
What's the phrase? How do you eat an elephant? How about like, how do you eat a dragon?
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
One bite at a time. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we just need to, because like the small things add up
Hmm.
over time. It doesn't have to be big performative acts or anything because those are actually more dangerous nowadays too.
Yes.
The big performative acts, like I've seen a lot of people talking about how like they want us to take to the streets so that they have a reason to blame us. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, I saw a video the other day about how this one woman was impressed that this kind of bubbling revolution energy that we have going on right now has a very yin energy to it because it's a lot more like passive detachment, like the boycotting and the like staying home and the economic blackout stuff that we're participating.
Hmm.
It's the like non-participation revolutionary acts that I think are having more impact this way than the like taking to the streets that we may have seen with the BLM movements a few years.
Right. Yeah.
Because we
Don't
also
take,
saw how harmful those ended up being.
yeah. Yeah. It's, don't burn yourself out to kill one dragon when there are three more waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
What is that? Action economy?
Sure.
Yeah, we all need to practice action economy. That is for sure. We are in a recession. Well, I know we're like laughing about this and taking this lightly. So I will also take this opportunity to reach out to anyone who is listening or watching this is like, if you are feeling useless, if you are feeling hopeless, if you are feeling lost in all of this, do reach out to us. We are here for you in any shape
Mhm.
or form that we can be here for you. Um, I've literally called the Discord server our extended village because it takes a village at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And whether you're near or far, we are globally connected these days. And I think that that's what's going to make the difference in this modern day situation versus past examples of this kind of oppressive force taking over.
Yeah. And, I'm just going to echo that because, we are laughing and having a good time. And that's just as important in this day and age as anything else.
Yes.
But seriously, on a serious note, like, my DMs are open, find me on social media and chat if you want to. I have no problem with that. You know, find your village because everybody's going to need one.
We love you.
We love you.
Oh, per usual, I kind of want to cry. This is powerful stuff that we're talking about. And audience, we definitely encourage you to share your own thoughts and feelings and stories and insights with us as well. I mean, Critical Role has been a huge role model for me in the realm of community support in all of this. Like, just the fact that they've put so much emphasis on nonprofit support from the very fucking beginning
Hmm.
has been very inspiring for me, and how much emphasis they've put on making the critter community a loving community and a supportive community and a collaborative community has been so inspiring on my end. And I want to continue the trend. I want to carry the baton if I can. So please let us know if you have also been impacted or inspired by Critical Role in similar ways, or just the critter community. I just joined the Beacon Discord yesterday. I don't know why I waited so long to do that.
It's a great place.
It is beautiful. I love all those people in there. Oh, so good. Well, thanks to Atlas for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Always happy to be here.
hmm Next time, we'll be discussing Campaign 1, Episode 40, Part 2. And joining me again will be Atlas, so I'm excited for that. As always, I'm looking for more co-hosts and guests. So if you're interested in coming on the series, just let me know. Hit me up. And in the meantime, please comment, like, subscribe below. Follow us on Tumblr at Sacred Reading CR. I have not updated it in months. I will at some point, but I am just so busy. Until next time, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be free, and be the chaotic good you wish to see in the world. Take care, guys.
Bye.